Today, we're diving deep into MDMA, often known as ecstasy or Molly. It's
Right.
got this unique classification, entactogen or empathogen.
Yeah, empathogen. It literally means touching within, which really speaks to, how it can foster that interconnection, that empathy.
Interesting.
And the history is actually pretty surprising. It was first synthesized way back 1912.
Wow, okay.
And it was even used medically for a bit before it became illegal back in the 80s.
Right.
But what's really fascinating now is, well, current clinical studies are showing some incredible potential, using it with psychotherapy for treating stuff like PTSD, anxiety, depression too.
That's a huge contrast to how most people encounter it now, right?
Exactly. A stark contrast to its presence, often dangerous, in the unregulated market today.
So what does all of this mean for you listening right now? Our mission here in this deep dive is basically to pull out the critical knowledge from our sources about MDMA's effects, how you might encounter it, and really crucially, how to navigate the significant risks, especially when safety isn't guaranteed. So first off, what does this substance actually look like? And, what might be hiding there? Pure MDMA apparently is a white crystalline powder,
Yeah, that's the pure form.
but you often see it looking off-white, beige, maybe even brown.
That's usually because of common contaminants you find on the unregulated market. It's rarely sold as just powder anyway.
Gotcha.
It's usually pressed into pills, ecstasy pills, or maybe put into gel capsules like Molly.
Right.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, well, the demand, especially in the dance scene, it often just outstrips the supply.
Which opens the door for problems.
Big problems. It opens the market right up to dangerous adulterants substitutes. Think really toxic stuff like PMA or PMMA, or sometimes just methamphetamine or even caffeine.
So those pills and caps, they're not reliable at all then?
Extremely unreliable. Knowing the actual purity or even the dose of MDMA in them, it's basically impossible without proper lab testing.
Okay, let's talk effects. What are people generally looking for? The sources mention feelings of love, empathy, a mood lift, euphoria.
Comfort, belonging, closeness.
Yeah.
Yeah, those emotional effects are common.
And psychologically, maybe reduced inhibitions, feeling more alert, more willing to talk.
Exactly. And when you swallow it, the effects usually kick in somewhere between 20 and 90 minutes.
Okay.
Then you've got a peak around the 2 to 3 hour mark.
And the whole experience lasts.
Typically about 4 to 6 hours in total.
But it's not all positive, obviously. What are the downsides, the risks?
Well, what's fascinating here is the spectrum of negative effects. Physically, you can get an increased heart rate, higher blood pressure, that jaw clenching people talk about,
Right.
and hyperthermia. That's a dangerous rise in body temperature. That's a big one.
Can it be fatal?
It's rare, but yes. Extreme negative reactions can, in some cases, result in death. Maybe about 2 per 100,000 users, roughly.
And psychologically?
You could have short-term memory loss, confusion. Sometimes, even though it's rare, a real psychological crisis like psychosis or severe panic attack.
And then there's the come down.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That can last 48, even 72 hours. You might feel quite depressed, fatigued,
Yeah.
just drained.
Are there long-term issues too?
There can be. Frequent use is linked to cognitive impairments, memory loss, and potentially irreversible brain injury from overheating from that hyperthermia we mentioned. And it's crucial to remember, even when you feel like the main effects have worn off, MDMA is still active in your system for up to maybe 12, sometimes 24 hours.
Okay, so given all that, let's talk harm reduction. Safer use, the sources really emphasize set and setting.
Absolutely critical. Your mindset, your body that's set, and your environment that's setting, they massively shape the experience.
What about practical tips? Things like eating maybe 30 minutes before, avoiding use when it's really hot, like over 25 Celsius.
Yes, avoiding heat helps prevent overheating. Hydration is key too, but you have to be careful. Sip water regularly, maybe 1 cup, like 250 milliliters an hour if resting. Double that, 500 milliliters if you're active, like dancing.
But don't overdo it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't overhydrate. That has its own dangers. Eating every couple of hours or using supplements like magnesium for electrolytes, that can help too. And get proper rest afterwards.
And redosing, taking more later.
That significantly increases the risks. If you're considering it, wait at least 2 hours after the peak effects have passed. Minimum.
What about other ways people take it, like snorting or shelving?
Right. Insufflation or rectal administration. They have their own specific considerations, finer powder, using your own straw, switching nostrils for snorting, lubrication and sterile water for shelving. But the core principles of being informed and cautious still apply. And a really critical point is dangerous drug combinations.
Okay, what should definitely not be mixed with MDMA?
Well, things like 5-HTP or L-tryptophan supplements, certain antidepressants like MAOIs, the painkiller tramadol.
Stimulant.
Definitely avoid mixing with ice, methamphetamine, or cocaine. Even DXM, found in some cough syrups.
Why are those combos so bad?
They massively increase the risk of serotonin toxicity, which is a really dangerous overload of serotonin. Can lead to seizures or severe heart strain, potentially fatal.
What about alcohol or common antidepressants like SSRIs?
Be cautious with alcohol. It dehydrates you, which adds to the overheating risk. And SSRIs, well, they can blunt the effects of MDMA, potentially leading people to take dangerously high doses to try and feel something. And of course, MDMA can be particularly dangerous if you have pre-existing conditions. Heart problems, hypertension, high blood pressure, or mental health issues like anxiety or insomnia, it can make those much worse.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. What about the legal side? Obviously, possessing it is illegal, but carrying paraphernalia too.
Yes, simply carrying drugs or things associated with drug use puts you at risk of criminal charges.
And drug testing. How long does it stay detectable?
For roadside saliva tests, it can be 24 up to maybe 72 hours. And that's often time from when you last slept, not just your last dose.
Right.
Urine tests maybe 1 to 4 days. Hair follicle tests can go back much further, up to 90 days. Blood tests, typically 1 to 3 days.
And driving.
Absolutely illegal to drive under the influence. You really need to wait at least 24 hours minimum before driving.
Is there any reliable way for users to check what they have? Pill testing.
Lab quality testing isn't widely available in most places, unfortunately. There are DIY reagent test kits you can buy.
Do they work?
They can help indicate the presence of MDMA or perhaps flag some dangerous adulterants. But crucially, they don't tell you about purity or the actual dose. So it's a limited harm reduction tool. Ultimately, I think the central message coming from all our sources is pretty clear. Knowledge is power. In this unregulated market, you simply cannot know the purity or the dose of what you might be taking. It's impossible.
So harm reduction becomes essential.
Absolutely crucial. Understanding the risks, knowing the strategies, it's paramount. And this, I think, raises an important question for you, for everyone listening. In a world where these substances are often misunderstood and the markets are totally unregulated, how does actually understanding these details, from the history of the chemistry right through to the long-term impacts and these harm reduction tactics, how does that empower you to make genuinely informed decisions, to really practice critical thinking?
That's a fascinating thought to mull over. Definitely food for thought. We hope this deep dive has given you a shortcut to being, well, much better informed on this really complex topic.